Hi everyone. All right, so we're going to start with a little game. I'm going to read you a passage, and your job is to guess what God I'm describing. Okay? Here's number one. There is but one God. He is all that is. He is the creator of all things, and he is all pervasive. He is without fear and without enmity. He is timeless, unborn, and self-existent. He is the enlightener, and can be realized by grace of himself alone. He was in the beginning, he was in all ages. The true one is, was, and shall forever be. What religion is that? I'll give you a second to think. It's Sikhism. Did it sound Christian? Did it sound Muslim? Could it have been Muslim? Could it have been Christian? Could it have been Jewish? Let's do another one. To God belongs the praise, Lord of heaven and Lord of the earth, Lord of all being. He is the dominion in the heavens and in the earth. He is the Almighty, the All-Wise. What book is that from? It was from the Quran. Could it have been from the Bible? Could that have been Christian? Can you tell? One more. Seers and sages, saints and hermits fix on him their reverent gaze, and in faint and trembling accents, Holy Scripture hymns his praise. He is the omnipresent Spirit, Lord of heaven and earth and hell. To redeem his people freely has promised with men to dwell. I want you to think about this one. To redeem his people, he has promised to live with humans. What religion is that? It's Christianity, right? No, it's Hinduism. That's from the Ramayana. What's the moral of that little game? Maybe you got them all right. I'd be suspicious if you did. What makes religions different? Is it just the names? Is it just the language? Is it just the history? Do they really disagree on substance, or are they different traditions that worship the same thing? I want to start today with some vocabulary words. Okay? First one, exclusivism. I think most people on earth are exclusivist, even if they don't realize it. Exclusivists are people who believe that one religion has an exclusive claim on the truth. Hence, exclusivism. One religion has the truth, they have all of it, and no other religions have any of it. Those are separate claims now. It's one thing to say that a religion has the truth. It's another thing to say that the other ones do not have the truth, too. So an exclusivist says we are excluding them. This religion is the one true way. You make up your mind for yourself about how many people you know fit that bill and would say that about their own religion. You may be one of them, and you may be right. There's nothing, inherently wrong with it. It could be true. It's possible. It's possible that one religion has the truth and every other religion is wrong, whatever that means. There's issues with it, though. How do you count a religion? Say, for example, to pick one out of a hat and say it's Christianity. Christianity is the truth, says the exclusivist. So what gets counted as a Christian? Are there gray areas? Do you just have to be Christian, or do you have to be Catholic? Maybe Catholics are wrong and you have to be Protestant. Which kind of Protestant? Are there 2 kinds of Protestant or 600? The boundaries can be very broad or very narrow or very, very narrow. And it's hard to know where your boundaries of truth and falsity are supposed to lie. How do you figure out, who gets grouped in and who doesn't? It's a question with big cosmic implications, where being wrong means being wrong about the universe and everything and God, and your immortal soul may depend on it if the line gets drawn here rather than here. There's a parallel, it's parallel sort of to the how good do you need to get into heaven, how bad do you need to deserve hell. It's going to be like gray, and most people are somewhere in between good and bad. Most people are on the borderline between one belief system and another, and how you count. It's analogous, I think, also to culture. What does it mean to belong to a culture? I'm Southern, I'm American, I'm a New Yorker. No, I'm not a New Yorker, I'm a New Jerseyite, whatever the hell that means. Do I belong to one? Do I belong to all four of those? Exclusivists have the same setup, basically. You have to figure out where you draw the lines to get the in-group and the out-group, grouped right. Exclusivist. Now, why be an exclusivist? One, it might be true that one religion has all the truth. Two, the religions tend to say it. They tend to say things like, no man cometh unto the Father but by me. There is one chosen people. This is the last prophet. So if he's really the last prophet, nobody else gets to be a prophet. Every religious founder seems to have some claim to unique access to the mind of God. But then they all do it. So if any one of them is right, all the others are wrong. Which could, lead a person to view number 2. Exclusivism is view number 1. You could be skeptical. You could think about the odds. You could say if any one of these groups is right, all the others are wrong. So what are the odds that any of them are right? Maybe they're all wrong. If everybody is saying nobody's right but me, and all of them have a 1% chance of being the one group that got it right, if there's 100 groups and you're picking one, what are your odds you pick the right one? Low. So maybe you should be skeptical that any of them have any access to the truth. Exclusivism, skepticism, inclusivism. Inclusivism is a cousin of exclusivism. Inclusivism is the idea that one of these religions has the truth, but others of them may overlap it like Venn diagrams. So say this story and all of its complexity is the truth, this one. And it say, for example, that part of that story is reincarnation. This other religion over here differs from this religion one, the truth, in many ways, but they also believe in reincarnation. It'd be weird if you're an exclusivist to say that we have all of the truth and everybody else is wrong, even though we agree. Because many religions agree on some big things about the afterlife, about God. You could be a relativist. A relativist is someone who sort of has given up on the truth and has reduced their claims to truth down to truth for them, and truth for them, and truth for them, and punt the big question of what the actual truth is beyond our belief system out there. Many of us philosophers would like to know what the truth is out there, not just in our heads. So, that gets us to pluralism. So your reading for today is from a pluralist, John Hick. And he didn't start as a pluralist. He started as a sort of dogmatic Christian. He believed that church had an exclusive claim on the truth. And over time, he's very old now. But at some point in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, he started to transition from that exclusivist point of view to being the world's leading exponent of this idea of pluralism. What do pluralists think? Pluralists think that religious disagreement is akin to the parable of the elephant that we talked about way back at the beginning of this class. I don't know if you remember it, but on one of the first days of this class, I told you this parable. Several blind men are brought in by a king to describe an elephant. And they can't see it, so they can just feel different parts. One feels a tusk and says an elephant's like a plowshare. Another one grabs a different part of the elephant. He grabs an ear and says, no, 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 you're wrong. An elephant is like a big fan. A third one comes in. He can't see what the other two saw, but he feels the leg and says an elephant is like a pillar. And they fight. They fight about who's right and who's wrong. I want you to think about that as a true-false story. Who's right here? Who's got the truth? Well, none of them have all of the truth, but also none of them are wrong. All of them saw what they saw, felt what they felt, none of them saw anything. So they're right. Every one of them has some truth, but none of them has all of it. And even altogether, they don't have all of it. The pluralist thinks that the human connection to God is like that. Nobody should expect that any human has seen all of an infinite thing. If anyone claims to have exclusive, universal truth about God, they're claiming omniscience. They're claiming that they know an infinite thing. You'd have to be God to know the mind of God. And the pluralist is skeptical that any of us has that. I don't have it, you don't have it, and the saint or guru you follow probably doesn't have it either. But they may, like the blind man touching the elephant, have seen a part of a big thing. And this person may have seen a different part, and that person may have seen a different part. And so when people may not even know that they're worshiping the same God, but be worshiping the same God anyway because they're all seeing parts of one bigger thing and not realize it. That's the model of what pluralists think religious disagreement is like. Is there any reason to think the pluralist is right about that we are all worshiping the same being? Hick has two big arguments for this. I'll say two. I was going to say three, but one is not really an argument. It's just an interpretive mechanism. The argument is really historical. And he doesn't call it this, but I would suggest if you want to read deeper on this, you look up a man named Karl, K-A-R-L, not C like me, Karl Jaspers, J-A-S-P-E-R-S, and the Axial Age, A-X-I-A-L. Jaspers famously noticed that most of the great religious breakthroughs, most of the great religious works, or the works we call great, arose at the same time on different parts of the world, parts of the world that weren't communicating with each other. In China, there's a specific time period we're talking about here, from about 800 BC to about 300 AD. You get the following people: Confucius and Lao Tzu forming two separate philosophical and religious traditions in China. In India, you have the Upanishads, which are the basic foundational books of Hinduism being produced, and then a reaction to them in the Buddha in about the 5th century BC. Two grand religious traditions arising in this axial age. In the Levant, what's now Israel and Palestine, you get the first Hebrew prophets, Amos, Isaiah, Hosea, who talk about God in a different way than their predecessors. They talk about God as if there were one, and as if he were demanding moral rectitude in a new way for the life of Israel. In Greece, you get the birth of philosophy and the birth of the Greek religion in figures like Homer and Hesiod. Homer was about 800 BC, maybe the mid-700s. Hesiod was a little bit later. A very short time after that, you get Pythagoras, who gave us the doctrine of the immortal soul that we're going to talk about our very next class. And Plato, who developed it into the birth of all of philosophy as we think of it in the West. All these people arose at the same time. And why? It's a big, difficult, and interesting question. Why did they arise all at the same time on opposite sides of the world? There are probably good historical, cultural explanations for this that may account for it, like writing was developed and passed around the world. There were cultural developments that took place. There were breaks in between empire ages. It was a dark age that Greece had to climb out of. Cultures were coming into contact with each other in new ways because the civilized world was growing big enough for them to bump it. Maybe there's just this world's secular explanation for the explosion of religion around the world in these ways, but every major world religion, with the exception of Christianity, which grew out of Judaism, and Islam, which grew out of the Judeo-Christian history as well, but they can be grouped in together in this historical progression because they grew out of the religions that were born at this time. Hinduism, the world philosophies, the Chinese religions, all were born at the same time. The pluralists' explanation for this is that God showed up. There may again be simpler explanations for this that don't depend on God, but John Hick's argument is the easiest way to understand this from the point of view of the religious faiths themselves is that God did appear to the Jewish prophets, and he did appear to the gurus of the Upanishads, and he did appear to Pythagoras, and he did appear everywhere at the same time. And everyone thought, I alone saw God. This guy over here thinks, I alone saw God, and this guy on the other side of the world says, I alone saw God. What are the odds that any one of them was the only one who saw this thing when they all say very similar, if not the same things at the same time? I saw God, I saw God. Maybe they both did. That's Hick's argument for pluralism. It fits the history better. If everybody claims to have seen the same thing at the same time, maybe they just did. And no religion has an exclusive claim on the truth. They're all just blind men touching different parts of the elephant. All right, so when I put your discussion board up for this week, it's going to be on the question of which makes more sense to you, to be a pluralist or an exclusivist, to think this religion has some special claim, your religion presumably has some special claim on the truth, or all religions have some equal claim on the truth, or maybe none. Maybe you're a skeptic. So I'll put that up in a few minutes after I load this and post it for you. Hope you guys are happy and healthy and safe. I'll put up another one on Plato's doctrine of the soul, probably tomorrow.